Leo, obviously I'm going to start with you because you're Scottish.
That's right, I am Scottish.
So what do you think? Did you ever support independence?
I think when I was young and naive and not very intelligent, I supported the concept of independence.
What's changed? Oh, you've got older.
I've got older. I've learned more. You know, with age comes wisdom. So, yeah, I don't know if that's ever going to happen to you, but
very good.
I've got some more wisdom as I've got older.
Because I'm older than you, so be careful now, Leo. Be careful.
Right.
And you coming back next week, are you? Yes, exactly. Right, no. So, Nicola Sturgeon, what is the general feeling that you get when you're in Scotland and you're around Scottish people?
Well, when I'm in Scotland, I'm mainly talking to taxi drivers who absolutely loathe and detest the SNP. They've been terrible for the Scottish economy and terrible for just the upkeep. The state of the roads in Glasgow is appalling. You'd think you're driving through a ploughed field in Somalia. It's absolutely insane.
Have you ever driven through a ploughed field in Somalia?
No, I don't even know if they plough fields in Somalia.
Right, yes.
I was trying to make the point that both ploughed and also possibly, landmined. But the other people I talk to are comedians who are, arty-farty, living this, as Calvin would say, metropolitan liberal elite world. They believe everything they read in The Guardian, and they all think that independence would be wonderful. But the fact of the matter is, independence would be a disaster for Scotland. Scotland does 66% of its trade with the rest of the UK, obviously, because we're part of the same island. So, for us to leave would be like Brexit. For all these people who, oppose Brexit but support Scottish independence, is a complete... I don't understand how they can rationalise those two things. And Sturgeon currently trying to draw parallels between what's happening in Ukraine and use it as a sort of a rallying call for independence. It's so cynical.
Yeah,
it's so
There
disgusting.
seems to be no lows to which she won't sink. I mean, that's just my view. But Calvin, what's yours?
I think she's taken the northern part of the greatest nation in the world and she's destroyed the education system that was fantastic. She's destroyed the healthcare system that was also great. And she's destroyed the economy, which is now non-existent. So I think it's a great shame that she was ever given any power. I think devolution was the biggest mistake that Tony Blair ever made, and he made a lot of them.
Yeah.
Probably his second biggest mistake, actually, considering all the deaths at his hand. I think going forward, maybe let's give them a referendum. She said once in a generation, but let's give her another under the condition that she and her party disappears if they lose.
But she said that she said she wasn't going to do that again, didn't she? She said it was a once in a lifetime.
She did.
She didn't like it, so she's then going for the best of three.
Yeah.
I mean, this one, the last time they asked and talked about independence, 44% of the Scottish people supported the idea of it. So, I mean, there is definitely that 24% said no. So there is definitely a feeling that there was a feeling that was something that people wanted. But I think when you see something like the war in Ukraine, you sort of start to think about the power of community, really. And the global community, so NATO is a community.
Yeah, and we're part of Western liberal democracy, that includes Europe, that includes America, even includes Australia.
Just because Brexit has happened, we are still part of that community.
Yeah.
That was just a detachment from trade and also politics, which we didn't want to be part of because, frankly, people in Europe do not reside in the UK and therefore they shouldn't be voting on policies that will affect us when they don't affect them. It was a thing that was never a construct that won't survive, clearly, because you can't get... It's very difficult to get 27 nations or 28 nations to join in and agree things quickly and without thinking of their invested interests. I don't think it works.
But you're right, it is a community that we're a part of, but smaller than that is the family of the United Kingdom of Great Britain. Yeah. And I think she wants to break up that family for her own selfish reasons. I don't think the vast majority of people agree with her.
Yeah, and the boundary of the United Kingdom is defined by the sea. We're an island, I mean, and Northern Ireland as well. But, we can't break up an island. It's ridiculous.
Well, Do you think now that this sort of her behaviour will actually cost the SNP a lot of votes because they have an incredible number of seats? They are still quite powerful.
Well, the SNP have been in a very easy position for quite a long time. They've got a completely fragmented opposition. There's no solid, consistent opposition to the SNP. They've got an easy message to sell. They're a single issue party, just like UKIP were. So they've got this nationalistic, banging this drum for independence and, blaming anything that goes wrong on Westminster and taking credit for the few things that do go well in Scotland. And as Calvin says, devolution has been an absolute disaster. It's just created this satellite state that fights back against Westminster, fights back against the UK.
Although, if you look at it, I mean, you see the way some of the MPs have been behaving in Westminster, you can understand why those in the north and northeast would rather, and in Scotland, would be thinking, well, we actually want a centre of power within here, because we know that having localised power centres is actually a good thing as long as it's connected to the whole thing in general.
It's a good thing when it's working in harmony with the central government, but when its sole purpose is to fight back and criticise and try and be this malignant force breaking down and building division in the country, that's when it doesn't work.
How would you do it differently than if you were to look at the structure now?
I would, if I could, I'd get in a time machine and go back 30 years and tell everybody devolution is a terrible idea. Well, don't do it.
That's a good point. So will you stand against that horrible anti-white racist again?
I would love to. I would love to stand in Scotland again. I think Scotland needs a more unified opposition to the SNP. I understand that the Tories aren't popular in Scotland. Obviously, we've got this Etonian posh oaf. I mean, he's always going to be a tough sell in Scotland. And the other parties, Labour, have completely abandoned the working class. The Lib Dems...
They've abandoned everything. They've abandoned women.
Yeah, I haven't seen much coverage of the Lib Dems in Scotland. But yeah, I mean, I think if we could get... Ruth Davison was fantastic. If we could get somebody in Scotland who's more of a totem that people can rally around, who'll stand up to the SNP, it'd be great to see the SNP just fade into the background.
Well, I think Nicola Sturgeon might do it for them. Yeah. Let's see what our voices are thinking, because this show is nothing without your views. Let's welcome our great British voice, your opportunity to be on the show and tell us what you really think about the topics we're discussing. And I'm very pleased to say that Chris Davis from London joins us now. Chris, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Now, what are your thoughts? Do you think that there should be an independent Scotland?
I don't, Nana, no. It's actually difficult to disagree with anything that Christine Jardine or either Leo or Calvin yourself have said this afternoon. No, I don't support the notion of a second Scottish independence referendum. Once in a generation is not 8 years. And when we actually look at the experiment that the SNP are conducting around identity politics and telling 4-year-olds that they could be whatever gender they want to be without parental consent, that causes me grave concern. And as Calvin has highlighted, in terms of both education and health, where the SNP have got full devolved powers in Scotland, they're making a complete hoolie of it. And by the way, any nation where the leader and that particular party does not want Leo Kearse appearing on their stage is also not a good place to live. So in summary, no. I do like Leo, and Calvin. Look, I like you all, you know that. But in all seriousness, I think there is a sinister edge to the direction of travel with the SNP. And it does feel to me as though they control an awful lot of the narrative up there, particularly in the legacy mainstream media. And anything that sort of dissents from that seemingly is crushed. So just a question back, probably to Leo, actually, and you guys, would be, do you feel that the mainstream media in Scotland is anything other than biased towards the SNP?